Hi, this is Diane Lovetobake, and what we're going to bake are black and white cookies. So let's get started. First, you're going to start off with 1 3/4 cups of all-purpose flour. And to that flour, you're going to put in 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. So put that in the bowl. We're also going to put 1/2 teaspoon of salt in with our flour. And then just take a spoon and just mix it up a bit. And then we're going to set that to the side for the moment. You're also going to be needing buttermilk. So you need 1/3 cup of buttermilk. And what we're going to put in the buttermilk is 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. And then just take a fork and just beat it up just a little bit, just so that it's combined and you've got some bubbles in there. And then we're going to set that aside for the moment. In a large bowl, you're going to need butter at room temperature, and I would suggest an unsalted butter, as I'm using, and put that in a large bowl. That was 7 tablespoons of unsalted butter. And just start to cream that in your bowl. You can use your stand-up mixer if you prefer, rather than the hand mixer, which I'm using. Now once you do that, you're going to need granulated sugar. So what we're going to do is we're going to be putting in 1/2 cup of granulated sugar, and we'll just cream it into the butter. And that was 1/2 cup of granulated. And just beat that on high till it all comes together. Now once you do that, you're going to be putting in 1 egg that you've also had at room temperature. Now beat that in there. All together, you probably should beat this about 3 minutes, but I'm going to move it along due to the video. But you want it to be nice and smooth, and you want it to be a pale yellow. So I'll just give it a couple more seconds here. Okay. I'll show you what that looks like so far. There we go. Okay. Now we're going to go back to our flour dry mixture. I'm just going to beat that up just a little bit more. Whoops. And then we're going to alternate between the dry and adding a little bit of the buttermilk and the vanilla. And we'll do that at medium speed. Just do a little at a time. Now, you really don't have to beat this too long. You just want to wait till it all comes together and that it's smooth. I'm going to raise my speed on my mixer, put the rest of the flour in, and the rest of the buttermilk and vanilla. And then I'm going to go on high just to bring it all together, get to that bottom of the bowl, and work those sides. Okay. We'll set this aside. And then with my spatula, I'll just make sure that everything's combined and everything's clean from the sides of the bowl. And then you'll have your cookie dough. Now, what you'll want to do is you'll want to grease your cookie pan or cookie sheet, whatever you prefer to call it, or butter it, grease it however you want. And I like to use a heaping tablespoon for these cookies. Now these cookies you're going to probably get anywhere from, well, you could get as many as 8 to 10, that type of thing. Of course, if you want to make them smaller, you're going to get more out of them. I like them to come out quite large. And do put them, you know, at least a good two, especially if you're doing the large ones, 2.5 inches apart, that kind of thing. And try to round them off as best as you can. Now when you do bake them, and you will bake them at 350 degrees, these large cookies are going to take you anywhere from 8 to 10 minutes. Now when they bake up, they are going to flatten quite a bit. You will know they're done by the edges will turn a golden brown, and when you touch the center of the cookie, it'll spring back when you touch it, and then you'll know that they are baked. So just put them on your cookie sheet, again 350, and bake them. They'll have a golden brown, and they'll be able, when you touch them, they'll actually you'll be able, it'll come back. It'll actually come back to you, in other words. Now, when you do bake them up, sometimes they do come out irregular shaped. So what I do is, after I bake them, I just use this round cutter that I have, and then I place over the baked cookie, the baked cooled cookie, and then it forms exactly the perfect circle. But if you're not worried about if they're not quite completely round, don't worry about it, but I tend to like to make them look more even and uniform. Now when the cookies do come out, you will need a cooling rack to put them on. And when they come out, I want to just show you what one looks like when they bake up. They'll have a nice golden brown to them and a light color, very light color. And this particular cookie, again, after it was baked, I actually cut it so that it had a nice clean edge to it. Okay? Now that we've talked about how to make the dough, how to bake the cookies, now we have to do the frosting. So in another bowl, what you're going to do is you're going to combine 2 3/4 cups of powdered sugar into a bowl. Now you're going to do this by hand. You won't need a mixer. What you're also going to put in the sugar is 2 tablespoons of light corn syrup. That was 2 tablespoons of corn syrup. And put that in. You're also going to be putting in lemon juice. So you're going to need 2 teaspoons of lemon juice. And just mix that in. You're going to need a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla for that. You can also use clear vanilla if you don't want to use the caramel color vanilla. And this is where you really want to take your time. Have anywhere in a bowl ready 4 to 6 tablespoons of water. And what I like to do is I actually just start off with 1 tablespoon and then mix it. Don't forget, you want this to be so that this frosting or icing, whatever you prefer to call it, is going to stick to the cookie. So you want to put it in pretty slow. And you want to make it, of course, as thick as you feel that you want it to be. So I've put 2 tablespoons so far. And then just start mixing it in. And after I go to about 3, then I actually start using a 1/2 teaspoon of water. Because I'm sure a lot of you realize when you've done glazes or frostings like this, they can become thin very quickly. If it does become too watery, I always have some powdered sugar standing by that I can add a little bit till it's the texture and consistency that I want. So this looks pretty good so far. You want it to be that you can spread it easily, but you want it to be that it sticks to the cookie. So I think this looks pretty good, the consistency. Again, if you find it's a little too thin, add a little bit of powdered sugar, a little at a time, till you get that right texture that you're looking for. Now what you're going to do is you're going to divide this into half, because of course it's called the black and white cookie. So you're going to need, you can go back to your original bowl that I had the powdered sugar in, and I'm going to take out just about half from the vanilla. And to make it chocolate, I'll put a little bit more back into my bowl. You're going to need unsweetened baking cocoa, and you're going to need 1/4 cup of that. And that you're going to mix with the vanilla, and that's going to make you your chocolate. So just keep stirring. Now with this, again, you're going to have to start off slowly. I usually use the 1/2 teaspoon at a time, because it will be thicker automatically because you're putting in that cocoa in there. So I like to, again, to use a 1/2 teaspoon at a time. You're looking for it thick enough to stick to the cookie, but easy enough for you to be able to spread it on the cookie. So we're going to put just another 1/2 teaspoon in. And see how this is. And that looks pretty good. So we have our vanilla and our chocolate. I have some made up ahead of time. Now as it sits, it will get a little thicker. So this is the vanilla that I have and the chocolate. So this is what they're going to look like once they set up a little bit. Okay? Now, what I did was I took two of the cookies, and I already put vanilla on one side and chocolate on the other, and they have dried, so they will harden nicely for you. And I like to do, basically I do like to do the vanilla first, but there's no right or wrong. And just start spreading the chocolate on the one side. You want them to be about halfway with the chocolate. Don't forget the edges. You want to be able to get that icing on the edge of this cookie. And then with a cooling rack, and I usually put a piece of wax paper on the bottom of it for when it drains, it goes onto that. So it's an easier cleanup. You try to do them with a straight line. Okay, like this. And then just let it lay on your cooling rack till it hardens. And now I'll do the vanilla on this side. And I'm just letting the excess run back into the bowl. And we'll do this side real quickly. I'm going to try to make that a straight line as possible. And again, don't forget your edges. Do your edges of your cookie. Okay, and we'll try to just straighten that out a little bit. Okay, and we have that done. Now when they're completed and completely hardened, they will come out and look like this. So now you have your black and white cookie. Pretty easy recipe, just takes a little bit of patience in icing them or frosting them. But other than that, it's a fun recipe to make, a great tasting cookie. I hope you like this one. Leave a comment. I'd like to hear from you. And as always, thanks for watching, and please subscribe.